Hey, this is Matt from InvestiQuant. Today is Wednesday, July 8th, 2020. And this morning I'm going to show you something from our bias alerts section. And for those that don't know, our bias alerts are alerts based upon biases that we have preloaded into the platform to give you some ideas to look at on a daily basis. So today we're going to be looking at one for the ES. The setup is going to be the intraday open. I have already narrowed that down. And if I scroll down, you can see we got quite a few of these that are potentially in play, but a lot of these are determined by where we open. You'll see some opening filters on these. And this one down here at the bottom is simply for gapping up. So the ones above here, you got to open below the prior day low for those to be true. That does not look like it's going to be true as of the time of this recording. That may change by the time the market actually opens, but right now we're trading up a little bit. So since we have an up gap, we can go ahead and look at this short bias, weak close in a bull market. If I click on this little tooltip here, you'll see the description for this bias, and it says if opening above the prior session close following a close in the bottom 25% of the daily range and the prior session closed above the 10 and 200-day simple moving average. Historical odds have favored closing lower than the open by 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time. So this is saying when you get a weak close defined by closing in the bottom portion of the daily range and you closed above the 10 and 200-day moving average, the next day, if you gap up, it has been a short bias, and you can kind of see the stats over here to the right in the equity curve. If I go ahead and click on this button that will load it into Discover, we can see the full details of it. So these are the full details for our short bias weak close in a bull market. Again, the pattern gapping up after a weak close defined as closing to the bottom 25% of the daily range when above the 10 and 200-day moving average. This is an entry at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, exiting at the close 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time. And this bias has 143 samples. The win rate, just a little bit weak here, 47%. So it's not like it's a super weak win rate. But when it loses, it's losing quite a bit more than when it wins. So although it's not the strongest of win rates for a bias, I mean, 46% is just under that 50-50 mark, so it's not a real directional bias. When it's not working, like this is saying here, it's losing a lot more money on average than it wins. Now, for those of you who have access to this, this is something that you might want to look at turning into like a gap fade type idea. You can go ahead and test that within the symbols and settings, turning this into a gap fade where maybe you're targeting the prior day close as an intraday type setup. And you can do that by just coming in symbols and settings, and you can change this trade type here from long to fade. And then once you do that, you'll have the target of the prior day close. In fact, if I just do this here real quick, we'll throw a slightly loose stop on there, 50%. Let me go into opening filters and we can kind of zone in a little bit. We'll say that the gap has to be at least 5% of the 5-day ATR. That'll get rid of the smallest of gaps. And then let me see where we're at right now. Looks like we're trading up just a little bit, but not too deep into the prior day's range. So I'm going to say we're trading in the bottom half of the prior day range. That's just one of the many options we have available here as an opening filter. So let's just use that and view the results real quick and look at this as a gap fade. Yeah, so there we go. This has happened 67 times where you gap up in the bottom half of the prior day range with this pattern. But at least 5% of the 5-day ATR. And by using that 5% of the 5-day ATR, you're keeping at least some sort of minimum gap on there. And that'll get rid of all like the smallest gaps that may inflate the stats, but not actually amount to anything. But historically, a pretty decent win rate there for a gap fill type trade. Stats, not bad. So maybe something to dig into. There's probably a little bit of additional context you could put to this, or maybe some different stops that might be a little bit better. But generally, a decent environment for a gap fade type trade as well. So hope you found that interesting. Good luck today, and we will see you next time.